Welcome to Missing the Point. We're talking about the Boston Celtics. Of course, we're talking about the Boston Celtics. None of us ever doubted them for a second, right? I mean, there isn't audio evidence of us doubting them or chat evidence of us doubting them. More specifically, none of us ever doubted Jayson Tatum for a second, thank God. Here we are with all our credibility in our hands. I am DK Sizzle, Dave Clarke. I'm here with Hollywood Ray Buchanan and Mike Marcangelo. Guys, we haven't spoken since that game 7 that wasn't much of a game, as it turns out. Jayson Tatum turned on his inner Kobe and had a hell of a game. I think it's his best game as a Celtic, personally.
Yes.
I think that you could make an argument for that Milwaukee game 6, where he had a shitload of fucking threes and like got forced to game 7 and like all that stuff happened. But I think that the variety, we are going to start talking about Jayson Tatum, and then we'll move into the broader implications of the next round and stuff like that. But I think the variety of things he was doing, the coming off the fourth quarter that he had in game 6, after the game that he had in game 6, and riding that momentum into playmaking, defending, rebounding, and scoring. And scoring, he scored his first 3 when he already had something like 16, 17 points, right? So he was making moves to the basket. He was challenging guys to take him on one-on-one. He was playing really well out of the double team. It was a complete basketball performance. It was an unbelievable game. And to be quite honest, like, I think it did really shift my perspective on him, because I don't think we've seen him have that game. We've seen him take over in the playoffs. We've seen him take over in the regular season. Obviously, we've seen him shoot lights out, but we've never seen him take control of a game, grab the game by the scruff of its neck and take over. So, Ray, what do you think led that from Jay's performance? Was it the fact that he was going to the basket? Was it an attitude thing, or was it a combination of a lot of stuff? Like, how did he pull that performance out of himself in game 7?
I mean, I think if we're being, if we're taking the emotion out of it, I think that this is where he's been in elimination games for the most part. He's now 5-1 in game 7s, with the only loss being to
LeBron.
James. Yeah. So, I mean, because this is the way that was rookie Tatum, you know what I'm saying? So he was still the player on the floor for us, during that playoff run back in 2018. So, yeah, I think it was just a mix of this is what he is. I think that, his mindset going into the game, once again, spoke to, I think it was Cassidy Hubbarth after the game, and said, humbly, I'm one of the best players in the world. And once again, people were going crazy online saying, well, how he would say that? I just have a game, but obviously,
I love that. Really? People didn't like that? It was great. I loved that.
It was great.
That's what I want from you.
Yeah, so when you outscore the team even on a bad night, 16-13 in the fourth, you can say that. And obviously,
I think it was the right answer to the question.
Sure, I agree.
The question was, how do you have a stinker of a fucking, paraphrasing, how do you have a stinker of a fucking game and then pull out 3 fucking dagger threes in a row and outscore the 76ers? And the answer to that question is, I am one of the best basketball players in the world.
Right.
I believe in myself.
But to close my point before you turn it over to Mike, I think that his approach to the game, like I said, is what was different. So he usually only scores at 2 levels, meaning he's either going to get a 3 or he's either going to get a layup. Game 7 was one of the rare games we've seen that he said, I'm going to score from every level on the floor. So if the defense is giving me a dictator, I can shoot a 3, I'm going to pull up and get a 3 off the dribble. If I need to do a 1-step pull-up dribble and hit it for 15 feet, I'm going to do that. If I have Joel Embiid on me and I do a low 1-2 dribble and go by him because laterally he can't stay in front of me, I'm going to get to the cup because there's no rim protection after I get by him. So he thought through the game differently than he's ever thought it, in my opinion. That's what led to that masterful performance. But yeah, attacking at all 3 levels is hopefully something we see of the future, because if so, we'll be very happy come Father's Day.
And to that exact point, though, I was thinking before you asked me the same question, I would imagine. But I remember like when we were all talking in Discord, right? And it was, I think it was game 5 when it was a fast break and Jayson had Embiid. It was just him, and he stopped, didn't distract, and put up a terrible 3.
Yeah.
The difference in these 2 games is Tatum brought Embiid back to the perimeter in Game 7 and made him get his own shot. He goes, "No, listen, I'm not going to stop for you. I'm going to bring you to me, and I'm still going to shoot over you." It was just a level of confidence. I think that articulated it like perfectly for me.
Yeah.
Do you
this
think
is what
he
you always
knows that
wanted.
Embiid was gas though? Good.
He shouldn't be. I mean, if he is, that's not. Then Philly has to reevaluate, because if he's gassed by 36-year-old Al Horford for 7 games, I mean, again, I think I hate Embiid's game in the sense that I hate that he plays for the calls, but that's what the NBA is. I think he's a phenomenal. Obviously, he's MVP. He's a great player, but I mean, kudos to him though. Embiid used to get gassed in the second quarter. Like 5 years ago, he couldn't do this, and now he's going 4 quarters into Game 7. Maybe he was gassed, but I think it wouldn't have mattered. Sorry if this is like blasphemy. It wouldn't have mattered if it was Shaq in his prime. Tatum was going to shoot over him. He was going to make that shot.
I mean, I don't know. Like, it was a no-show performance, like officially in Game 7. Like, I feel like if we're 76ers fans, like, we're furious, because like I was ready to be furious at Tatum if he no-showed in Game 7. Like, I was very ready to be furious at him if he did that again. So, I think that, like, we'll come on to talk about the coaching as well, but since we're on the subject now, the 76ers, like, the fact that Joel Embiid like has this really weird body language across all these series is like why it's a reflection of how we're able to win these games and these series over the last few years. Like, since they got him and we got Tatum and Brown, and the whole trust the process era has essentially been him being like either out of shape, like you said, Mike, sometimes, or kind of complaining that he doesn't have the help yet, or kind of giving up weirdly. Like that moment where PJ Tucker's like gassing him up in Game 5, I think it was, where he's like, "Come on, like, let's fucking go," like, da da da. And maybe it was Game 4, and it's like, you shouldn't need that from PJ Tucker, bro. You're the best player on the fucking field, on the court. Like, you're the guy. You should be hyping everybody else up with your play. Like, I talk a ton of shit about LeBron James. Like, I'm always the one saying like losing finals record, like fuck him, like he's terrible at fake GMing, like all this shit. Like, he's still a fucking leader on the court, like 100% of the time. Like, Steph Curry is still a leader on the court, like 100% of the time. It's been a big bone that I've picked with Tatum a lot of the time, is when he goes missing like vocally also. You got to figure that out before you figure anything else out in Philadelphia, because you can't win unless you have that grit. Like, you can't, like, there's guys that have had it that didn't win shit. So it's like, well, what's the problem? Like, you got PJ Tucker next to you. Like, he's tough. You've got a good cast of characters around you. You've got James Harden. Like, I mean, is it a James Harden issue? Does he just bring that to a team, Mike? Like, you've been talking shit about James Harden in that exact context for years. Like, if he's your second best player, is that a fucking problem? But like, how many excuses are you going to make for Joel Embiid being this good and not winning?
Yeah. I mean, so the problem that I have the most with James Harden is that through the course of the regular season, he gives you the illusion that he's different. And then every playoff series, you realize he's the same. He's someone that you cannot count on. Now, he's one of those guys that can get you there, but he cannot be the reason that you're going to win. And I think that we've seen that repeatedly. And this was like the perfect storm of choking this Philadelphia 76ers team. I mean, we'll talk about the coaching, but Harden no-showed. I mean, after an amazing Game 1, when in reality, I think we talked about this last time, he might be better when he has to be the only guy on the court, because if he has to share, I don't know that he knows how to. Now, that pick and roll, yeah, it was great. But once he figured it out, like, you realize that he was kind of a one-trick pony. But he had nowhere else to go.
Well, especially now.
Yeah, as far as Embiid, though, like, again, minus the fact that he hits the floor at a more rapid rate than Marcus Smart does. My biggest gripe with him is that you can't, in a post-game press conference, say that he can't do this alone when signing a max deal with that team. So, like, in a negotiation, are you not going with your agent saying, I'm going to be the reason why we win a championship? That's why you signed a 4-year, 5-year, $215 million contract. All right, so if you can't do it alone, then why don't you just take $20 million less a year and get another player? The problem that the Philadelphia is in right now is that you have Embiid in I think their second highest paid player in that team. If it's not Harden, it's Tobias Harris. Like, what are you doing? What are you like? And there are promising aspects of it. Like I thought Maxey, he could be a killer when he wants to be.
He's
Right?
going to be.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
He's,
said that,
he's
I said
not.
that
He's
before the
been,
series.
his defense was trash in the final 2 games, but offensively he has it. From a competitive standpoint, he has it. But I wanted to touch on what Dave said about the leadership aspect, right? And yes, there's players that show it in different ways. And it doesn't always have to be vocal. Some people are more action led, like Kawhi Leonard is action led when he's on the court. And he's not going to talk. He's just going to give you 30 when he's healthy, right? We've seen that. But far as the problem is with Embiid, right? He's not as vocal as we think he is, right? Like he's a big time troll. He will clown you to death, make jokes, he get under your skin. He's not a rah type of player. And we haven't seen him be at his best from that standpoint since he played with Jimmy Butler, right? Jimmy Butler is that guy. Jimmy
That
Butler
was really fucking stupid.
Hey,
Like
right.
if you didn't think it
Give me
was
a face.
stupid before, if you didn't think that was a dumb move before,
Yeah.
look at Jimmy Butler in the Eastern Conference Finals taking a zombie Heat team to the
But
fucking Conference Finals. Like,
for the third time in his 4 years in Miami, they've now made the conference finals.
yeah, he's that guy.
So imagine that. He goes to Minnesota. They get to the postseason. Like so, wherever he goes, winning or at least competitive basketball follows, right? But once again, he holds guys accountable on the team, because he wants the best out of people, and I think that's where I think Joel Embiid responded to that. I think he liked that. He said, "You know what? All I gotta do is just go out here and just dominate. I don't have to talk to the guys. I don't have to pump up guys. I can just go get my 30 and 12 and go from there." And I think that's
Also,
why
but-
he was, we're going.
But the irritating part about Embiid is that he's very vocal in wins, and he puts off all of the responsibility in losses. Right? Like there is no shame in him saying after Game 7, the reason that we lost is because we just came out with no energy. We had no answer for them, and Tatum had an MJ game. But he didn't say that. He says we can't win by ourselves. All right, well, what the fuck, dude? Like, what do you
Well,
want?
I just not to be pedantic, but it's not really an MJ game. It's kind of a Tatum game because it's the record for scoring in a Game 7. So, like, I think we can name
That's
the first
fair.
Tatum game instead of
fair.
like an additional MJ game. Like, yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. Like, you can turn around and say, like, look at fucking Jayson Tatum out there. Like, we're a good team. Like, we played well. We took 2 games off that team at home, like, in Boston. And we're gonna turn around and we're gonna fucking run it back, and we're gonna like make a good solid effort next year. Like, this is a super competitive division. But yeah, to turn around and say shit like that, it does show like a little bit of a lack of character. And like, to Ray's point about how you talk or how you display leadership on the court, like I always think back to that Kevin Garnett story about Tim Duncan, where he's like, "Oh, Timmy talked the most shit with like 2 little words." Like he would be like, "Got you." It's like, nice try. Yeah, no, that's not gonna.
Almost.
Yeah. It's like nothing. Get out.
That's worse though.
That's
like,
worse.
That's worse.
Because that's the more quietest confidence.
Yeah,
It's quietest confidence.
Buckets. You're just like, oh, let's try you for like, what?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no,
Yeah.
like, no,
And
no,
like, and I think that there's something to be said for, like, I don't want to be all kids these days about it, but it's like there's a generational thing too. So like that's a different generation. Like they were pretty fucking hardcore in that class. If you're giving it to KG regularly, like the one guy that could do it was Tim Duncan. But that Spurs team showed leadership in all the ways. Like for if you look at that Spurs dynasty, you look at how Popovich was, you look at how Tim Duncan was, you look at how Manu Ginobili was. You look at Tony Parker, like you look at these guys, they all had the different types of qualities to show leadership on the floor. So you could chop and change players around them, that core. And I think that Joel Embiid, like to your point about Jimmy Butler being there and like showing us his best, he needs to find his guys. Like he needs to find his like triumvirate, like his fucking his Mark Antony, like who's your most trusted general. And it's going to be really hard to get people to buy into that. If you're constantly throwing people under the fucking bus, if you're constantly not taking responsibility for shit, as much as we, from the fan perspective, and this is sort of our job, get mad at Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown and stuff like they'll probably bark at each other and they'll get in fights and whatever. But they have each other's backs. They clearly have each other's backs, like through thick and thin. Marcus, Jalen, and Jayson. And I think that the culture got us there in a lot of ways because they at least responded to that horrific Game 5 performance with back-to-back wins, to win the series.
I wonder what we're talking about now, and I wonder if Doc Rivers still has a job. If the Game 7 press conference from Embiid was something along the lines of, so what I've learned is that this team in this building could win without me, so I need to do a better job of making everyone around me better. If I can do that, we can get to the next level.
They did win that fucking Game 1, dude.
Right.
Well, let's talk about Doc Rivers now. I think obviously we all have a soft spot in our hearts for him because he was the guy in 08. Mike doesn't. He's been talking shit about. Yeah, I mean, you were right in the end. The fact is, it can't be a coincidence to preside over the most Game 7 losses, the most 3-1 comebacks, in multiple places when you have the best Clippers team ever, when you had, the best version of Joel Embiid so far. You have to take some responsibility as the coach. If we're going to be on Joe Mazzulla as much as we are and hold him responsible for the losses that he's actually definitely been responsible for, we have to talk a little bit about Doc Rivers. If you're Philadelphia, Mike,
yep,
that's not the only place you have to start over. But what do you do in the coaching position? Because obviously Doc's gone. What he looked like a perfect fit for a second before all this sort of came true. At least to us, we were like, oh, that kind of makes sense. He needs that veteran. He's won before. He's done this. He's done that. We were all arguing with you, but you're right in the sense that the perfect storm of choking, Harden, Doc, Embiid. You were right when you said they'll fuck it up. We'll come back and win this series. So if you're Philadelphia and you've trusted the process is kind of come and gone now at this point. I mean, what kind of coach are you looking for? And
I think the fact
what did Doc do wrong exactly? I thought he coached some good games that he lost. It's a weird thing. I mean, I get that it's not a coincidence, but it's a weird thing.
I think that so this is a couple of things. I think that Doc is snake bitten by his past, right? It's the fact that after this series, he's 17-34 in closeout games in the playoffs.
That's rough.
It's terrible. That's bad. And the only reason why he still has a high profile job, in my opinion, is because of the 2018. And it's clear that the 76ers made the decision that they chose Harden over Doc. So if you're going to do that, which it feels like they're going to, then I think you have to bring in D'Antoni, because I don't think Harden ever played better than when he played under him in Houston. That was the most you got out of him. And I think that Doc served his purpose for Embiid because Embiid was not in shape before Doc. And I think he got Embiid as close to a winner as he possibly can. And this is not, I mean, I guess if you're the 76ers, this is a good time to get rid of Doc because there are so many recent Coach of the Year winners that are available to come in. But if they did choose Harden over Doc, which is my opinion, and I could be wrong, I think that they're going to go for someone that actually fits Harden's game better.
You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't build it.
No, I would.
James Harden.
No,
right
fuck no.
I mean that's why I kind of give the side eye now to
I would do it.
But yeah, D'Antoni, I mean,
with all the candidates that are out there right now,
I'm like, honestly, Monty Williams would be the guy that I would look at. I like, once again, I know that him and his Aiden relationship was strained in Phoenix, but I think that was just more so of, he tried to coach him up during the finals. Aiden wasn't really responsive. It was evident after a while that everyone involved and most people involved needed a, change of scenery. So I think that's what happened there. But you got Monty Williams, you got Nick Nurse, you have, I forget what's on. Oh, you have Mike Budenholzer. So there's other people that, are coach worthy, have been, to the championship more recently, won, more recently. But, honestly, and I know it's the easy and even sometimes more fun narrative to get on Doc. And once again, there's only a couple of series where I say, okay, you know what? I remember the Rockets series of 2015. That's on him completely. You're up 3-1. Josh Smith goes crazy against them. I think in Game 6 out there, they lose, whatever. But I think about, it took a Super Saiyan performance from LeBron here in Boston, which he brought up, which I thought that was wild that that reporter brought it up. But I was glad that I was able to come on this tonight. It's all, but I thought that was absolutely wild. That I'm like, you really go there and ask that question? Oh, have you seen this before? You fucking thing. Of course, you've seen this before. He saw LeBron get the best game in his life. in game 6 in 2012. Well, of course you've seen this before. So I think about '09 when we lost to the Magic. That was without KG, and they kept saying he was going to come back, whatever. Like, he was up 3-2. I remember Glenn Davis hit that game winner, and everyone was going crazy. Like, oh, we're gonna find a way to get this done. And then
we all thought fucking KG was going to come back that year because they underplayed.
Right?
The
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, we ended up getting the next year once KG got back. But
he was never the same.
of course, yeah, never say no facts. But I just felt like there's a few ones we could put the asterisks there. And even with this, right? Like, Harden won you 2 games. I'm going back to AB for a second, not necessarily on Doc here. Harden won you game 1. He won you game 4 as the MVP, right? And I know, Mike, you had a stat about this, so I'll let you share it in a minute. But about the point differential. But it's like, he won you game 1 and 4. He won. So it's like, at some point, you being the MVP, you got to say, okay, he got me. Like you said, Mike, he's gonna get me there. Now let me bring it home. And he did bring it home. Oh, he did bring it home. He just, it wasn't home for game 1.
To stick with the Doc thing, though, I mean, a DK, right? When you think about the fact that Doc is 17-34 total in closeout games, 25% of those victories came in the 08, 09, in the 07, 08 season. The Hawks, like that entire run.
Yeah, I mean, okay, but I would argue that that's the best team he's ever coached. I mean, I think a lot of coaches have records.
I don't hold
a lot of their wins. Yeah, but like that 07, 08 team is the best team he's ever coached. He had Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and an emerging Rajon Rondo, and the best version of Kevin Garnett still. I think that a lot of coaches probably have records that most of their wins came from the best team they ever coached. I mean, that's fair enough.
I would just say that the most damning part about the Doc Rivers thing, that we can move on from it if you want, is the fact that Doc chose to leave here and opts out of his contract, asked to be traded because he didn't want to be part of a rebuild. And he has never since then been further than the Celtics when the Celtics made playoffs.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, don't fuck with us. We'll put a curse, a hex.
Yeah.
One last point about Doc, though, just in this series in particular, like based on what you guys are both saying, I think I formed what I think is my opinion on it. And I'm a little bit in the middle ground because I think Ray makes a good point about some of the circumstances of those series. And I think you make a good point that it can't just be a coincidence. I wouldn't necessarily, just to get into the individual game management, I wouldn't really blame Doc for game 7. I don't think that Doc or Embiid or anyone can do shit about what Jayson Tatum decided to do that night. I would blame him for game 6, though. I think that your responsibility, I think he would blame himself for game 6, to be honest with you. I don't think this would be news to him. I think that your responsibility when you can have a closeout game against potentially the best team you're going to play in the entire Eastern Conference Finals, and their backs against the wall, they didn't step on our neck. They could have. There was moments in game 6 where I was like, oh my fucking God. But the Sixers did us like a lot of favors by being sloppy. They did us a lot of favors by, Harden. We've talked about ad nauseum already. It's Doc's responsibility to get the best performance out of those guys, instill the killer instinct in them and run the right game, And I think that in key moments he didn't in that game 6. And I think that like is where the responsibility lies of losing the series. Like once we got him back home to Boston, like we were probably going to win, like the parallels to the Milwaukee series the year before, the way that the players, the way that Jayson Tatum ended in the fourth quarter, like you could have stopped that from happening in the fourth quarter. Doc could have drawn up a defensive game plan to not, because they were still doubling Tatum at the end of the fourth, at the start of the fourth quarter. And it was, Bobby was saying, why are they even doubling him? He's having a terrible game. And it was like, because he could still do what he did. Right. And they went away from that. And it's like, dude, you could have prevented that. You couldn't have prevented what happened in game 7. Nobody could. Sure. That wasn't Jayson Tatum. That was God disguised as Jayson.
Well, I think, we talked about that though. I think I said it, we said it after,
we did.
We could show it. When you put Max, once again, we talked about Maxey. We gave him his props for the series overall. When they put Maxey on,
it hadn't worked all series.
Yeah, it was mixtape season. Yeah. It was a wrap. It was a wrap. Yeah. And he got put in the spin cycle, and now he can have Philly cheesesteaks for the rest of the playoffs on his couch.
It's not even fair. It's not even a fair matchup, though, is it? Like, it's not. Like, you shouldn't be
I
letting.
mean, it's not. I mean, to be fair, they don't have a match. It doesn't matter who they put on them, honestly. And once again, I want to give love to the Anthony Melton. You just got a lot of money, brother, coming to you. You did phenomenal in this series overall, just Tatum. I think Doc took too long to get to win this series because they were loyal to PJ Tucker, and I get it. But you earned yourself a lot of money, brother. You did phenomenal. I think, Jenny McDaniels eventually may be someone they put in there eventually, but the Anthony Melton, you were great this series. You were someone that, should be a decent wing defender for years to come. So yeah, he brought it. He gave them to them, what they needed. So I was pleased with his play. But I'm just glad that we don't have to see him.
Honestly, I agree with you. Like, with the exception of James Harden, this is the most I've liked the Philadelphia roster since Embiid got there. Since era in Philadelphia. Like, I really like the squad that they've built over there. Like, I was saying this before the series about Tyrese Maxey. Like, he's fast as fuck. He's a baller. I like his attitude. He was like, when Embiid and Harden gave up, he didn't at times, which I think is you should be pointing to that as fucking pathetic from those two. But I think overall the thing that we should glean, and I think we can move on from talking about the 76ers after this. The thing that we should glean is Ray's point. It's Joel Embiid is a really accurate reflection of the next best guy that he's playing with. And I think that we've learned that about him over the years. And I think and I mean that in attitude and in emotions and in play. And if you put James Harden next to him, you're going to get that kind of shit from Joel Embiid, I think. If you put Jimmy Butler next to him, you're going to get that kind of shit from him, I think. So moving forward, I mean, I like the Philadelphia-Boston rivalry, not just because we usually win. I like the rivalry as the most historic Eastern Conference rivalry. I like it as it's like when the Lakers are good too. It's like, the old guard are good. I don't want to hear shit from like fucking Indiana Pacers fans for the most part. It's like, you're not in this conversation. The Lakers, the 76ers, the Miami Heat. These are teams that I like having around. It's good when they're good. It's competitive. And on that note, we will be facing Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat in the next round. Mike, your albatross, your bugaboo team, the team that you hate playing the most for good reason. I mean, before we played them in the bubble, you were very vocal about the fact that Spoelstra is an underrated coach. I agree with you. You were very vocal about the fact that their defense is really intense, and that's had us fold in the past. That's, I think, what's getting them there right now, or what's gotten them to where they are right now. That zone that they play, I mean, Philadelphia kept fucking it up, but they still look like it was going to work against us at times. And the Hawks did it to us a couple times in that Hawks series. And they do run a great zone because they have smart players in their team, and they have Jimmy Butler. And they were one shot away from beating us last year, essentially. So we didn't expect the Heat to make it this far, but let me ask you a question before you go off about the Miami Heat, Mike. Are you more upset that it's not the Bucks? Like, would you have rathered the Bucks? I would not have rathered the Bucks personally.
So the reason why I would rather the Bucks than the Heat is because of I think that the Bucks with Middleton and Giannis, we saw our ability to cover up or to at least delay Giannis last year with the combination of Grant Williams and even Horford. My thing about the Heat is that on paper they shouldn't beat you. They have no reason to beat the Celtics, and they have that thing that we've always questioned some of the Celtics players are having. They will outgrit you. They will. They at times they act tougher than you, and I think it's a big plus that Tyler Hero's not playing. But Spoelstra, he's
a way better coach than Joe Mazzulla. A way better coach than
DK, you're a way better coach than fucking Joe Mazzulla, right?
Well,
but
yeah.
The thing about this is that he will make not just in-game adjustments, but in-quarter adjustments that I don't trust Joe to react to properly. Now, he did talk about, and Mazzulla did today in one of his interviews, talking about you need to be able to adapt on the fly, and then all like connectivity and all that stupid shit. But here's why I'm concerned most about the Heat. We are we're 10-7 against the Heat since 2018, 2019. We're 9-11 against the Heat in conference finals games in the last 3 conference final series we played them. Now, that does include 2012. So if you want to strip that away, that's fine. But we have a losing record against them in the playoffs. They just are gritty. And listen, if this is the Tatum that comes out, fine. Then I'll gladly pay you $50 Monopoly money because it could be 4 or 5 games. But I do think that this is where the coaching will matter the most, and Spoelstra doesn't choke. He just doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I take your point. Just to rebut, just to rebut a couple things. My big worry is Joe Mazzulla again. I think that Spoelstra is going to do shit to make him look stupid. It's going to be a lot worse than it was in the last 2 series. I think that the fact that we don't really run plays from timeouts, like proper coach drawn up plays, like Hoosiers plays, is going to be disastrous against the Miami Heat. I think we're going to have a lot of. I hope we're not in positions to need buckets or need to stop buckets out of timeouts in crunch time in the fourth quarter, because Spoelstra's way, way better at that, and we're not that good at that. But what I will say is Bam Adebayo had a really big surge against us and was able to keep up with Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown and rim protect really, really well in series past. I think the emergence of Rob Williams, and if you can just get them to play one-on-one more, that's just not going to happen. I think that Joe's game plan should be to just get everybody one-on-one. Like, we are more talented than them. You know, we don't. Yes. I don't need Joe to overthink this. I need him to make almost kind of go back to what he was doing that was losing us a little bit of momentum in the Sixers series. It's like Jayson Tatum can take Jimmy Butler on. Like, he'll win some, he'll lose some, but he'll win overall. Like, Jaylen Brown can take him on. Like, they can go against these guys one-on-one. Adebayo we can throw Al Horford at him, or we could throw Rob Williams at him, or sometimes we could throw Jayson Tatum at him. We'll see like what kind of defense he's playing. He's pretty long. I just think we are more talented than them at every single position, like 1 through 8, right? You have to fuck this up. You have to fuck this up monumentally, because we're way fucking better than the Miami Heat. So if the intangibles you're talking about are true, we're not going to be able to like quite put our finger on it, but Jesus fucking Christ, like, we are so much better than them. Like, to a man. Ray, am I wrong? Am I crazy? Like, you would rather see these guys than the Bucks, right?
I mean, I get what Mike was saying, but yeah, of course.
I do too. But it's just like, don't make it simple.
Paper,
you know what I mean?
No, on paper, sure. Like, I think, but to Mike's point, Miami has to be that because they don't have the talent surrounding Jimmy Butler. They have to play that hard. Otherwise, they're going to get smoked. So, and once again, grit and grind and like plays from the heart, like that can't be taught. It's either you have it or you don't, right? And thankfully, you know, they're a team that has it and it's made them successful this far. But Joe has made the biggest adjustment already. But so does he. And once again, you know, Dave didn't want to give his victory lap, but I'll give the victory lap for him. Dave's been screaming on this show, not literally, but he's been screaming on this show.
Screamed a couple times.
But been saying, hey, play this man 30 minutes or more. And guess what? The moment you did, they scored 86 in game 6.
Yeah.
They scored 88 in game 7. What do you know? And Philly is way better than Miami offensively. Way better.
Yes.
So just imagine, so that adjustment part was made. And yes, there's going to be certain plays. Once again, Miami's going to run mostly zone. That's just what they do.
It fucks with us.
But shout out to this guy. I think his name is Tomas. He's the best video person for the Celtics. He puts stuff out there. His highlights are incredible. And I watched some of the best highlights against the Heat this season. Like, when they have somebody that's in the middle, so we talk about adjustments, that's where we're at right now. Have somebody in the middle and have somebody hold the corner. So whether that's Hauser, that's Grant, whether that's Payne Pritchard, whatever it may be, hold the corner. So they have to build out. They cannot cave in. They have to build out.
Make holes in the zone. You got to make holes in the zone.
You can just go attack. And once again, you either get a foul, or you get to get shot at the rim. Like, there's ways to break that down. The reason why the Miami Heat is so successful is because most teams are not disciplined enough to do it time and time again against them. If you're disciplined enough, then you're going to beat them. But if you're not disciplined, they're banking, because they're going to be disciplined. Suppose got them, they locked in. they're going to be there. They're banking on you not being as focused as them, which is why they usually capitalize. So I beg, I implore, I plead, whatever word you want to use. Please play with discipline, play with pace. Because if you do, then yes, it won't go 7 like it did last year.
But
the only way it goes 7 is if you don't take things seriously in certain games, and then they do.
But that's simple though, right? Like what I'm saying is like that's simple. Like Joe can manage this because it's a simple plan of attack that's you see there's tape on working. Like get to your spots, make your high percentage jump shots. Jaylen Brown, if you're in your spot at either elbow and you want to pull up and shoot, you have the green light. Like because he's going to get space in those spots. You know what I mean? Like especially like if you say, Ray, you're pulling guys around, you're moving guys around. If Sam Hauser starts hitting threes, they can't live with that in that system. You know what I mean? Like they can't. Or fuck it, just like you say, Peyton Pritchard or something. Have fucking Jayson Tatum stand over there. Just have fucking Jayson Tatum stand over there. Everyone else can run around, and it's like he'll just start fucking hitting those, and then you start moving. Rob in that floating free safety position. The thing they were having Rob do in the Sixers series, which I liked, other people on other podcasts that I listened to didn't, was like catch the ball when he was going towards the basket. Right? That's like hasn't been part of his game like at all. But he did a good job of like catching it towards the basket. They have to react to him because of his size, because if he gets the basket, he's just going to dunk it. He goes towards the basket and then bam, people are cutting. They're cutting to come help him. Boom. Like, and we were finally moving around the corner well on screens, like all that stuff. Like you said, discipline. Like just keep playing your game. Don't let them switch. Like, and they're not going to try to switch you in that zone. I get, but it's a different thing that kills us.
Who would guard Jaylen, Mike?
Well,
right?
It has to be.
Who's going to guard Tatum?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
So that's the listen. I say this.
I'm not worried about the offensive.
I say this all the time. You're not telling me that either Gabe Vincent or Max Strus is going to guard Jayson Tatum consistently.
0% chance.
They're not, once again, maybe for 1 or 2 possessions. That,
unless he plays into their zone, though. You know what I mean? Like,
right,
exactly.
But I'm like,
he's been guilty of that.
Force them into man. If you're getting open shots, and it's like, oh, now we got to adjust because it's like they're making every fucking thing. There's no way. Listen.
That's what I'm saying. That was my point.
I love
him one-on-one.
I love Kevin Love.
He's going to look so slow against us. It's going to be absolutely hilarious. How slow?
I think Al is going to go to work.
It's going to be bad.
Once again, it's going to go to work against them in most cases.
Look at how. By the way, just one thing we didn't actually do. Al Horford, like round of applause for how he played Joel Embiid. Like honestly,
phenomenal.
Probably the third or fourth reason why we won that series. Like it's extremely impressive.
Yeah, Philly did pay him $100 million just so that he couldn't do what he did in that series.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why.
So thank you. But thank you. To the management over there. But yeah.
but to your overall point about Miami and discipline, I would argue that last year that was the most disciplined Celtics team that we had seen probably since Doc. Right? Yeah. Yep. Can we agree on that? And
defensively for sure, yeah.
And Miami still took us 7. So there isn't there, and so that worries me.
Well, they no showed game 3 here. That's why
they're good. They're
we no show game 3.
They're going to no show a game. The Celtics will do that.
Can I make one point though that did the big difference? I think that's going to be between last year and this year. Malcolm Brogdon. Like you can make a point about Derek White. You can make a point about different guys that have sort of come through on this team. How many minutes Grant Williams had to play for us last year, and how little minutes he's really going to need to play if you think about it in the series, because like he's just we've been better.
I want to get to that because I just
you said he was going to play a lot against Philly though, and
I did, but I think but finish your point though.
Well, my point is I think Malcolm Brogdon is such a good zone breaker because of the way that he moves inside, like the way when he's playing his game and he's playing that serpentine sort of dribbling style where he's dangerous to pull up from 3, he's dangerous to pull up from 2, he's dangerous with a floater, he can go directly to the rack, he doesn't get sped up, he can really pull guys out of their zone positions and then kick it back out to the perimeter to that Sam Hauser or Peyton Pritchard that you're talking about, Ray, and they're going to have to start chasing him around. Derek White can also do the same thing, but for some reason, Joe Mazzulla has like destroyed his confidence by not giving him enough minutes. But the way Malcolm Brogdon played in the last series, if he can keep that momentum going, that's a real zone breaking maneuver. But I want to hear your disagreement on Grant Williams. I'm curious.
My only reason, or not only reason, but the main reason why I think that he and Hauser and Pritchard need to see time in the series is from the pure fact of like, yo, you need to lessen the minutes. And one thing, I'm not saying guys need to get down to 32 minutes. That's not what I'm saying. The sweet spot to me is 39, 40 minutes. And once again, they got Duncan Robinson on that side. You're not telling me that Hauser can match what Robinson's doing. He can run him around. And I think Payne Pritchard would be a nice change of pace to hassle Kyle Lowry when he's out there, to hassle Gabe Vincent when he's out there.
You don't think Luke's for that, especially if they have Kevin Love on the floor and we're not like super worried about
Payne. And honestly, Grant, but even Grant at this stage too. He at this point in Kevin Love's career, Grant could guard him for this is not prime Kevin Love with him going to work like that. So I just think that even once again, I'm not looking for 15 to 20 minutes. But 8 to 12 minutes up there, I think it's very suitable. And once again, if only 4 or 5 of those minutes come during like real playing time, and the other part is coming when it's a blowout win, then by all means, I'm cool with that. I just think just the style of play, and once again, from the videos I saw earlier, Grant actually played very well against the Heat. I'm almost positive they're gonna say, you know what? At the moment you're out there, do not move from the corner. Because the moment that Grant was in the corner, he damn near knocked out every three.
He could be that guy. I don't mind that.
Don't leave the corner.
Yeah,
I mean on offense anyway. Don't leave.
If all he's doing is shooting open threes, like I'm with a lot of guys.
Yeah, so I think that's my only reason. Other than that, like I feel like.
But my issue with Grant isn't when he like lets the game come to him, plays the game, and follows instructions. My issue with Grant is when the game's about Grant Williams all of a sudden, and when the 11th best player on your team is like, and the game's about him, and Draymond Green is making him his bitch. Every second he guarded Joel Embiid, there wasn't many of them because of this, but every second he guarded Joel Embiid in the last series was a fucking disaster. Like there was none of that. Like, oh, he can look what he can do to Giannis. He can sort of slow him down. Yeah. He was just like
they let him play. They let him play against Giannis. They didn't let him play against Embiid.
No,
that was different. That was different.
But he was sending Joel Embiid to the line every single time.
I know because they didn't let him play.
Him out of there. Yeah, no, sure. But it's but I just like,
that's the problem.
What I don't want to see is I don't want to see a guy like you're talking about discipline. And to me, discipline and Grant Williams, like their Venn diagram of those two things are two circles. Like I don't like I want Marcus to be more disciplined because he's been sloppy to me like this playoffs, like sloppier than email at him. But he still contributes enough that it's like, all right, well, we'll still take you out there. Like, you know, obviously you're one of our best players. I think Grant Williams, like discipline wise, yes. If he wants to be that dude, if all the people you just named, of all the people that we just named, if he's the guy that's standing in the corner and he's hitting those open threes, great. I'm good. Those 3 points count the same. Those checks cash the same whether Grant Williams shoots them or fucking Peyton Pritchard shoots them or whatever. I just don't want him mucking everything up like he does. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, everything up. It's a different. As I said, it's a different type of dynamic that might bring. So. You're not going to see Bam on the block. That's not his game. He's a mid post.
Yeah,
I'm going to pass out the post. I'm going to run. I'm going to run to the rim. That's the type of game. Which I think that suits Grant Williams better for him being on defense. Once again,
but Rob in that floating free safety rule, I think.
Rob
he could make Bam out of his life a fucking living hell. Like honestly, because all he has to do is wait for Bam to take the kind of shot that Bam takes and just swat them out of the fucking area.
That's exactly what it should be. So
he should be licking his lips for this series, to be honest.
No, facts. But I'm just looking for 8 to 12 minutes for those guys. Like I said, I think how
fair enough.
Yeah, so 8 to 12 minutes. Once again, it's mainly just to get guys enough rest so they can come back in the fourth quarter when it's close and it's going to be close. Yeah, just to say, okay, here you go at the 10-minute mark. I got you back in there. We don't need
to slim down to a 7-man rotation like we did against Philly.
Right. Nope.
Because we had to.
It's not going to work.
We fucking had to do that. Like we needed our best players because we were fucking hemorrhaging games at home, and we needed to we had our backs against the wall. I agree with you there. I think we've come to a compromise. You want Grant Williams to play, and we can move on from him. You want Grant Williams to be Grant Williams, and so do I. But I don't know if Grant Williams wants that. We'll see how it goes. Mike. If is anything we're saying swaying you in any sort of direction about like the talent levels? I mean, I know
Listen,
that it's a blank canvas right now, but come on, you know how much better we are than this team.
we are the most talented team in this series, for sure. The thing that should worry everybody is that when we come up against a team that outgrits us and outworks us, it takes us longer to beat them or we lose. Like
But
that's
we can
just
at
it.
least point to that game 6 now, right?
Yes.
We can at
Yeah,
least point to
well,
that Marcus Smart saying, like, "We need to go out there and fucking bleed, let's do this shit," and then
yes.
going and snatching the ball and, like, jumping after shit. I still question some of his shot decision making, but, you know, we can point to that now, that they can do it. There was a
Yes.
worry that
Listen,
they can't do it at all anymore, you know, like, leading into that game, so
the thing I find solace in is that if Jimmy Butler doesn't have a good night, that he can't win. Like that was not the same in this last series. Like you could have Embiid have an off night, but if Harden picked it up or Maxey picked it up, like you're still gonna have trouble. I think that the talent is like the disparity is great, and we have far more. I do think there's going to be one of these games where the Celtics, you know, they think that they're better because they are more talented and they get punched in the face, and it might be game one, might be game three, but in no way, shape, or this should not go 6 games. This should be over in 5.
yeah.
Like it, and like we should have had the Hawks series over in 4. We should have had the
Right.
Philly series over in 5.
Right.
We're doing the thing that we saw happen last year, where we're extending the minutes for Horford, Tatum, and Brown. I think that I think the Celtics are gonna get to the finals, but I think we're gonna find ourselves in the same situation where they're gassed, and I don't want that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, on that note, and I just want to preface this by saying I'm in no way looking past the Miami Heat. As much as
Me
I
neither.
we know you're not, but as much as I say that we are very, very much like a lot more talented than them. And I think we have overall better basketball players at 1 through 7 at the very least, if not the whole ass bench, to be honest, we're pretty deep. I'm not looking past them. I just want to talk about a discussion we touched on briefly. Ray had brought up that we have some of the most efficient players left in this playoff. Marcus Smart being one of them.
Mhm.
Was it 3 of the top 10, Ray?
Mhm.
And I think that, Mike, you and I were having a conversation about who you want to see in the finals, who you want to see come through that Western Conference final game, the Lakers or the Nuggets. Now, I have been very closely watching the Nuggets, quite frankly, because I find them very entertaining to watch. I think that Jokic is so much fucking fun. I think that his defensive liabilities aside, I think like he's the kind of big man that like you dream about having on your team. Like his ball skills, his ability to score, his game is silky as fuck. He can give it to you any which way. If you try to prevent him from scoring, he can get assists and he'll probably still score a bunch. I just really like his game. And I've been really worried about facing the Nuggets in the finals because they have a really talented squad, in my opinion. Centered around who I think should have been the MVP this year, and probably one of those like probably should be the MVP like almost every year, but like it gets boring, so you start picking other people. Like LeBron would have had like a 10-year MVP streak if we're calling it fair, right? So
Yep.
as much as that like is very kind of hypothetical and anecdotal, I'm really scared of Jokic. But when Ray pointed that out, I started looking at the team stats between us and the Nuggets, and honestly, we're quite comparable. We do a lot of the same stuff. The only thing that they don't do that we do is they don't shoot as many threes as we do. But we shoot threes at a pretty high efficiency despite that game 5. So in looking at that and looking at how efficient Marcus Smart even is, with the eye test, this game has been a little sloppy. Obviously, the other two are Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum. But the efficiency ratings, if they can keep that kind of stuff up against the Nuggets, and to your point, Mike, and we will talk about a Lakers scenario as well. But to your point, I guess maybe you're right. Maybe I shouldn't have been worried, especially with their defensive frailties. Like maybe we do match up well against them. I was a little bit worried about how they cooked us in the regular season. I was a little bit worried about how good they've looked in this playoffs, about how they were able to do that to Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, 2 high scoring guys like we have. But is that your dream matchup? Would you rather play them than the Lakers?
Well, my dream matchup is beating the Lakers in the finals because I'm a Celtics fan.
Sure. I mean, that aside, I mean, basketball sense.
I would rather play the Nuggets in the sense that I take nothing away from Jokic. I think that he is the best. That he's would he be the first person to win MVP 3 years in a row if he had won it this year since Larry Bird?
I'm not sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So like he to your point though, like he makes he can facilitate. But my thing is if you just make a determination, this would be Joe Mazzulla, which I don't have any confidence in, but if you just make a determination, like, listen, if he's going to score, let him score, but do not let him facilitate. You can beat them, and they are. I think I said to you before the 28th team defensively in the NBA. Like the Celtics have not lost a game this season when they shoot over 40% from three. So listen, you go down that roster. I don't know who they had that matches up against everyone that we have. And
on Denver, you mean?
Yeah, I just don't. I mean, and Boston, what we've seen so far is in games that we need our bench to step up and perform, we can do it. So yeah, they're my dream scenario. They're my easier win scenario. But I mean, Celtics Lakers, you can't.
Sure. We'll talk about those matchups too. But Ray, do you concur? The Nuggets not that scared?
I want this. I mean, I have what I call appropriate fear. Like, this is a respect factor. Like, I respect their game and respect what Jokic. Once again, Jokic is my favorite non-Celtic. Like,
yeah, I'm
completely biased. Like,
he's so
good.
Fucking,
he's fucking amazing. So, and he's spoken to Lakers right now. So they're up 20 against LA right now. And to Mike's point, he has 19, 16, and 7. Like, you're not beating that one. Like, you can't. Like you said, you cannot let him do both. It's either he's gonna pass, either he's gonna pass around the world and let everybody eat, or you're gonna let him get 50. Or you let him. So once again,
he had 3 offenses. Sorry, Ray. He had 3 offensive rebounds in one sequence to open the first quarter.
It's
crazy.
It's bad. Crazy. Yeah. That matchup is worrying to me though too. You know.
Yeah. No. Sure. I mean,
the rim.
Honestly. And once again, it is weird because this is what I remember getting this from Doc, but it does work. And it's funny because it worked against Embiid, and whether he realizes it or not. Let the big man or their best player get whatever. So, right? I'm all for let Jokic score. That's the case. We put him in the finals. Let him go for 50 every game. 50 alone does not beat me. I'm shutting down Michael Porter Jr. I'm trying to shut down Jamal Murray. I'm trying to shut down Aaron Gordon is kind of like Tobias Harris in a way. You know, there's nights
Tobias Harris is better.
I'm not sure about that.
You know,
like the only reason I said it, there's nights when you're like, okay, you can see why they get the money they get, and there's nights when you're like, are they even in the league? Like,
I'm kind of a Tobias Harris fan, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think we kind of got at him in the last series, but I do kind of like this game. But
yeah, I'm agreeing with you. He should be more than what he is, though. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm holding him. I'm putting him. I give him a higher standard. But no, I just think that's where that's at. But yeah, no, I don't want to play in the altitude. That's the thing. When it becomes a track meet and you're trying to run back and forth, and they do have KCP. They do have Bruce Brown, who's a Boston native. Like they got some guys that can defend the wing position if that moment does happen. But the scenario for me will always be a Celtics Lakers. I'm always going to take that.
Right.
We were robbed of 3 straight LA Boston finals when we were in high school and college. Like I want that moment.
Plus LeBron. I mean, LeBron. Like we have a very special connection to playing LeBron in high stakes games. Also, to me, still, I mean, with everything you guys are saying about the Nuggets, I feel a little bit better. But we ran the Lakers in the regular season. Like, that's how we beat them. Like, we ran them. And AD was cooked by the end of a regular season game against us. Now, I understand it's the playoffs and like it's a different scenario.
That was before the trade deadline, right? That's
before
I understand that that's like a different story. But they have a guy who's been very injury riddled in recent memory, and they have, as much as he's still very good and performing at a very high level, a 38-year-old LeBron James. So I think that with Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, like you play Golden State Warriors basketball against them. And I know that they just beat the Warriors, but they obviously weren't. I don't know if you guys watched that series. The Warriors were making crazy fucking decisions in crunch time against them. They did not look like themselves. Like that to me wasn't like a.
Well, Klay Thompson completely folded.
He went missing. Steph Curry was trying to operate by himself, and he was exhausted by the end. And then when he was exhausted, he was making very questionable decisions in crunch time. I think that Jordan Poole, the whole thing
is a joke.
Well, I just think he just disappeared. But like, all the shit that happened in the preseason with them, it's like, fuck, man, I don't know how you were supposed to really dig deep to find what you needed to find against the Lakers. But I also was saying that whoever came out of that series was going to get pantsed by Denver. So, maybe Celtics Lakers is the dream, but I'm still pretty sure they're going to get fucking waxed by Denver in this series. Like, really.
Right.
So,
but if you, like, I think honestly, if you just take a deep breath and look at the potential series, right? If the Celtics actually make the commitment to say, we're going to let the Joker shoot and score 60, but what we're not going to,
Joe Mazzulla is going to show that high level of coaching basketball.
Yeah. He's going to, the intentions are going to be great. But if Porter Jr., Murray, Caldwell, and fucking Brown, if Joker puts up 60, if they only account for 30 extra points, we're going to win. We're going to win. Like, just lock everybody else down.
I think their roster's a little bit better than you're giving them credit for, but
just another update just around the topic. So Denver's up 90-70. And the 6 minutes left in the third. Our guy Jokic is 9 of 12 from the field. 1 3 made, 4 from the line. He now has 23, 17, and 11.
Here's the thing.
With 6 minutes left in the third.
Yeah, and look, we still have to get past the Miami Heat. A gritty and technically proficient Miami Heat team. But I'm gonna say this now, and I'm gonna say it if we do get to a position where we're playing the Nuggets, they get past the Lakers, which they will. We cannot take defensive games off against them. Like, if you look at every single one of their games across the playoffs, it's like 125, 126, 120. Like, they so rarely don't score a shitload of points. Obviously, Jokic is a big part of that, but like, you have to. It's the finals. You have to go and fucking play that level, that game 6 level of defense for the entirety. Because if we get into a shootout with them, it's not going to be good, man. It's not going to be. They're too consistently good at scoring every single. They're gonna get 130 tonight. It sounds like, if they already have 90 across 3 fucking quarters, so they're gonna get a fucking 130 tonight or some shit. So I'm just saying.
I mean, obviously, like, there's still time left in the third quarter, but the most damning part of that stat line of the 23, 17, and 11 is the 11. If the Celtics can mitigate the 11, there's 22 points that they're not going to score. Now, obviously, like, you're not going to keep them under that, but again, if you commit to the fact that only he can beat you, and I think that what we've seen in Game 6 and Game 7 is, for short spurts, they can commit to it. They can do it. If they do,
it was all game for Game 6 and 7. Like, I felt like, once again, when you hold a team in this era to 86 points,
right?
And it was
a good offensive team.
They only scored 2 more the next game. And I know, like I said, we philosophically, I think DK and I disagreed on this, but I think we came around to it at the end. We speak about what Tatum did at the end of Game 6, and obviously what he did at 7, rightfully so. Marcus Smart saved our season Thursday night. That steal that he had for Embiid early on and came down, hit a 3. That set the tone right away. That was like, we're going down swinging. I'm not going out like this. And then everybody else followed. Which is okay, because sometimes you need the others. The others got them to win on Thursday. Tatum said, okay, y'all did y'all part Game 6. I got y'all Game 7. And it was a beautiful thing to see.
I agree. I mean, it did worry me. Obviously, this worry is gone now with that performance in Game 7. It did worry me that Marcus Smart is the one setting the tone in that situation. Like, I don't love it falls to the third guy in those situations. Maybe Jaylen Brown isn't necessarily that dude in that sense. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I need Jayson Tatum to figure out, like we were talking about at the start of the show, I need Jayson Tatum to figure out how to pull that performance out of himself, or something similar when their backs are like against the wall the first time in Game 6, right? So, yes, I do agree with you in retrospect. We did a show right after the game where I was a little mad at Marcus for some of his decision making, but obviously the emotions are high. And in the subsequent days, I have realized he did play a great game. I think
I think you felt it in, but like you said, you were pissed. So you felt it then. You knew it then. It wasn't like
I was also furious in general.
You was just like, no, it was okay, but
yeah, no,
fine.
Fair enough. I mean, he did though. He did, and he did have a great game, and I do agree with you that he was like an integral part of us winning that series. But he is getting away with sloppy decision making more under Joe than he was under Ime, and I just need that to somehow
Yeah.
right itself. Because when
Yeah.
he makes bad decisions, they're at the worst time. Like they really do kill you. So I mean, I love Marcus. I've defended him in the past too, but I was already very angry going into Game 6 at like a
Yeah.
lot of different things because I think that's the worst Celtics game I've ever watched. Game 5, like I think that's the most upsetting game I've ever watched the fucking Celtics play, at least in the postseason. Celtics Lakers, I think obviously you gotta hope for that, right? Like because of
Yes.
the history. Because I think they're beatable by the squad that we have. Jayson Tatum revenge game, like hit the fucking 3 in LeBron's face like he did to you in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Fucking dunk on him again. Don't poke the bear though. That was kind of the mistake in that series. I don't know if you remember, but yeah, that would be cool. I would be worried about Anthony Davis getting whatever he wanted on us, but like the Al Horford factor, could he grit out a defensive performance against AD the same way he did against Embiid? I think he could.
Yes.
Especially if you give him help. Two bigs, always an option. All right, guys. Well, that was fun. We will, of course, talk throughout the Miami series as we move forward in the playoffs. I overall, consensus-wise, do feel better about the Celtics than I did at some points in the Sixers series and even the Hawks series because they haven't really looked great. Like, to be honest with you, up until that kind of end of Game 6 and then Game 7, it's like, all right, we can do it. So let me get Heat series predictions from you guys just so we can lock it in. I'm saying Celtics in 4. Ray?
Once again, I just don't trust that they'll be locked in every game. I'm going season 7 now. Celtics 7.
7 again, huh? Mike?
Yep.
Celtics 6.
Wow, I didn't expect it to go like that. Me and Mike actually have a bet of $100,000 to see how many games this goes. If it goes 4 or 5, I win. 6 or 7, Mike wins. But you said 6.
Right.
That's surprising.
Yeah.
I thought you would have immediately said 7. Ray said 7. Ray's probably right. Okay. For myself, I mean, I'm already pre-mad. I'm pre-mad.
Right, yeah.
You know,
That's what I said. I'm taking out the. I already know. I said more frustration is going to come. So it's going 7. So
I think it's funny though that like last year, something about last year's team and their sort of plucky underdogness like made me and Bobby be very like vocally in support of them. But like the way that they play now and the shit that they do annoys me so much. I'm almost worse than you, I think, at this point. Like I think there's moments where you're like, all right, man, ease up on them. And which like last year you were like, this team is pathetic. They should all be lined up against the wall and shot. And like this year I'm just like, burn the garden down. Like someone has to play the part, right? Mike, analytical and statistical as always. Thanks for keeping it up. Great, God. It's been a wonderful show as always. I'm really excited about this upcoming series. I'm excited about being right about the Nuggets waxing the Lakers. I'm excited to be on this podcast with you for myself, DK Sizzle, for Rayshawn Buchanan, for Mike Marcangelo, and for all the missing the point family. Go C's.